Hello everyone, welcome to the Iron Bars, my true crime YouTube channel. So today we are going to talk about one of the biggest cases since the O.J. Simpson case in the 90s. We are talking about Casey Anthony. This girl, she made a return on social media in March, early March, around the 2nd or 3rd of March, and she set the internet on fire. Now, who is Casey Anthony? So now let's talk about her. So Casey Anthony is a 19-year-old girl who fell pregnant and gave birth to a bouncy little baby girl and named her Kaylee Marie Anthony. Now, she says that she fell pregnant out of an essay event where she was drunk and passed out, and some men took advantage of her, resulting with her pregnancy. Therefore, she doesn't know who the father is. So, of course, Casey's parents, Cindy and George, welcomed the baby together with Casey to live with them, because Casey was unemployed even though she said she worked at Universal Studios in Florida. You would think that Casey Anthony would have grown up now that she has a responsibility in Kaylee. No. She was still the party girl. She would go out partying as if she did not have any responsibilities back home. This, of course, worried Cindy and George because they realized that their daughter was not responsible enough for her daughter. However, they let her live her life. After all, she is an adult. Sometimes Casey would take Kylie with her to her boyfriend's place by the name of Tony Lazaro. She would take Kylie and they would stay over at Tony's place, who, by the way, was an aspirant DJ. However, 3 months before Kylie's 3rd birthday, on the 16th of June, Kylie goes missing. Interestingly, her grandparents didn't even know that Kylie was missing, and they've been gone for 31 days. Every time that Cindy tried to call Casey to ask about the baby, she always gave one excuse or another. If it's not this excuse, she would say, oh, she's with the nanny by the name of Zanny Gonzalez. During the 31 days of Kylie's missing, Casey was all over the clubs, partying it up. On the 2nd of July 2008, Casey went and gotten herself a tattoo on the back of her shoulder written Bella Vita. That is Italian for beautiful life. Cindy and George were worried about Kylie because they haven't seen her in a month already. Up until the 15th of July 2008, when they got a knock on the door, and it was the police, basically telling them that the vehicle that was abandoned at a parking lot in a shopping center is about to be impounded, and therefore they need to come and get it. Of course, both Cindy and George were a little bit taken aback and worried. They tried to call Casey. Casey would not respond, and she would not say anything about the abandoned vehicle. By the way, this vehicle belonged to Cindy and George. They gave it to her to make it easy for her to go to work and also seek other jobs, and also able to take Kylie to doctor's appointments and that sort of stuff. But Casey did not give a care in the world. So, of course, George went and collected the car, which was already impounded, and then he paid for the impoundment while at the same time livid with Casey, wondering why was she so callous, and also wondered where is she because the car is without her. When George and the man from the pounding establishment went to the car with the car key to get the car, when they opened it, they were hit with this pungent smell. It smelled like death, George says. And of course, the man that also accompanied him to his vehicle was like, yeah, this is not good. Of course, George drove the car back home, absolutely angry, and went straight to Cindy and said to her, go to the car and come back and tell me what do you get there. Of course, Cindy goes to the car because she's worried. Where is her granddaughter and where is her daughter? And then when she gets to the car, and she was also hit with this pungent smell, and she said, the car smells like death. And this is when they became worried. As they were busy scuffling around, this is when Casey arrived home. And she was not talking. She had an attitude. They tried to ask her questions about where the baby was. At first she said she doesn't know. Secondly, when she was asked again, she said, okay, the baby is with the nanny. This is when she broke the news and said, well, Kylie is with the nanny who refuses to give her back to her. Of course, this is a case of kidnapping. And what did Cindy do? She climbed right on the phone and called 911 to report a missing child. Also, the child is known to be with the nanny who refuses to return the baby. And so this is when Cindy once again called 911 and gave the police full detail as to where the baby might be. Of course, the police were already on their way when they got the information. They went to the location where Zanny Gonzalez lived to go and get the baby back. Some of the police went to the Universal Studios basically to interview her co-workers. When they got there, they were shocked to learn that Casey hasn't worked at the Universal Studios in little over 2 years. So this is when the police realized that Casey is lying to them. And now they wanted to get to the bottom of everything, because at first it sounded like a case of a kidnapped baby. So the police were left with no any other choice but to arrest Casey for child neglect. They also arrested her for lying to the police and also charged her with interfering with a criminal investigation. Therefore, this rendered Casey as the prime suspect in her daughter's disappearance. So while Casey was behind bars, the police hoped that at some point Casey would develop a conscience and basically tell them what exactly happened to Kylie Marie Anthony. But Casey would not open her mouth. As a matter of fact, Casey, when she was behind bars, she made sure that the police did not come close to her. So of course, the people of the state of Florida woke up the next morning because the news had hit the media, and Casey immediately became the most hated mom in the United States. So the police realized that Casey had not told them the truth in anything that came out of her mouth. The people wanted to know where Kylie was. So the people started gathering around Casey's house. This is her parents' house. Angry. They were literally angry even at Cindy and George, even though Cindy and George did everything to calm down the crowd, telling them that they are on their side. They're not on the side of their child. They also want to find out where Kylie Marie Anthony was. Even though Cindy and George would put together a search team, decide where was Casey when she was released on $500,000 bail by some bail's person. She was living it up. She was at some club called Fusion, where she would do hot body contests with other girls and basically just dancing the night away with no care in the world, while her 3-year-old daughter is still missing. On the 5th of August 2008, Casey Anthony was finally and formally charged with one felony count of child neglect. On the 14th of October 2008, Casey Anthony was officially charged with the following charges: first-degree unaliving, in addition to mistreatment, manslaughter, and lying to police, of which she pleaded not guilty to all of them. In the meantime, the forensic police went into the vehicle of Casey and George, basically to investigate this foul smell in the vehicle. And the forensics did say there was a foul smell of decomposing body. On the 11th of December 2008, Roy Kronk comes across a bag. He tried to open it and he saw it had skeletal remains of a human. He immediately called 911 and the police came there, and then those remains were collected and was taken to Florida medical examiner, who in few days came and made an announcement and told the state of Florida that those remains were indeed of Kylie Marie Anthony. And the interesting part about this location, it was not far from the Anthony home. It was literally a half a mile from the home of the Anthony. On the 24th of May 2011, Casey Anthony's trial began. Just like the O.J. Simpson trial, the people of America, they were glued to their television screens. They literally wanted to see every moment of the trial so that the truth it is told by Casey Anthony. Some people who did not have television sets, maybe because they were at work or on the road or whatever the case was, they were relying on people that were reporting from inside court through Twitter. So because Casey Anthony, while she had her MySpace, she was posting pictures when she was having the great time of her life during the time her daughter was missing. And the state prosecution was like, this is gold, they thought. They showed that to the court that this is photos of a mother who did not care about her 3-year-old daughter. The prosecution laid a circumstantial case, which got the jury quite worried because the prosecution was leaving almost everything in the minds of the jury. Basically telling the jury to imagine what may have happened to Kylie Marie Anthony. So when the defense took to the floor, they dropped a bombshell or two. The first bombshell that the defense dropped is that Casey's father, George, he was quite a character who used to abuse her as a child. Of course, this was said to be untrue. The second lie that was told in court about George is that Kylie passed away while she drowned in the family pool. And then George had a conversation with Casey on how to dispose of the body. Unfortunately for Casey, all these accusations, they came not to be proven and therefore untrue. So the cracks in the case started showing when the police, different police officers took to the stand and they were contradicting each other's testimonies. Some of the testimony which was very crucial to the jury was the duct tape, the placing of the duct tape on the skeletal remains of Kylie Marie Anthony. So this, of course, created a lot of doubt in the minds of the jury. So the duct tape was telling a story of how Kylie may have died. So what they did was, or the person that unalived Kylie, they took duct tape and put it on her mouth as well as her nostrils, making sure that she is unable to breathe. On the 5th of July 2011, 6 weeks after Casey's trial began, the jury deliberated for a good 10 hours. They came back and delivered a verdict of not guilty. Casey Anthony was found not guilty for the following charges: unaliving of Kylie Marie Anthony, manslaughter, as well as child abuse. However, the judge, when he was delivering his own judgment, decided to sentence Casey Anthony to 4 years imprisonment for lying to police, misdirecting them on the truth, as well as defeating the ends of justice. Lucky for her, because she already served 3 years of the 4 years, she was released 12 days later because she was well behaved in prison. Of course, this verdict shocked the people of America and the world at large. How could it be? What happened? Well, a few years down the line, one of the jury, his name is Russ, he came and said, listen, they don't say that Casey did not unalive her own daughter. However, the state, this is the prosecution, they came with a weak case, a circumstantial case, a case that was thrown onto the jury for them to make their own decision. Indeed, the jury did make a decision and they found her not guilty. And they say it was bad for them as well to find her not guilty. The problem was with the prosecution, quite incompetent. So it turns out that Zani Gonzalez was never a real person. However, the real Zenaida Gonzalez did launch a lawsuit for defamation of character. However, her lawsuit was dismissed. And some people say, well, Zani was not exactly a real person. Basically, she was Xanax, the medication that was probably given to Kylie to drink to knock her out so that they were able to put the duct tape all over her nostril as well as her mouth, basically to unalive her. So on the 24th of May 2001, Casey Anthony made it to the news one more time. And this time around, she was in a bar in Florida when there was a scuffle between Casey Anthony and a woman that threw a drink on her, basically calling her a child unaliver. And then in 2002, a docu-series about Casey Anthony's story. Basically, she wanted to tell her side of the story since she never got the opportunity to. people were like, mm-mm. And this docu was called Where the Truth Lies. It was to air in November of 2022. Americans shut it down. They said she does not deserve a platform to say anything to them. They're not going to believe a word that she says. Well, I believe that the docuseries was released. Those that watched. And then now we come to the 4th of March 2025, where out of the blue, while people on TikTok were busy scrolling up and boom.
I don't know. My name is Casey Anthony. My daughter is Kaylee Anthony. My parents are George and Cindy Anthony. This is not about them. This is not in response to anything that they have said or done. That's not to say that I'm not going to respond at some point to some of the things that they have said and done. The whole point of this is for me to begin to reintroduce myself. I'm doing this both personally for me, but in a professional capacity. Moving forward, the majority of what you will see will be me speaking in a professional capacity.
People didn't even want to hear any further. They tried to shut her down because, number one, she now had a TikTok page. The internet broke on the 4th of March 2025. People were like, what is it that she's going to say? People must not believe a word she says. But the interesting part about it, when I did see the video myself, while I was busy scrolling, I was like, wait, this name sounds familiar. I actually mistook her for another girl who, her and her boyfriend unalived the mother because they wanted to live together. Turns out, no, this is the girl who actually accused of unaliving a child. She was acquitted because of insufficient evidence, because the prosecution messed up the case. So I was like, oh, okay, this is a different one. When I saw the followers, when I saw her, she had 1,500 and people were just campaigning her. Then the following day, I was very surprised to see that she was at 52,000. So as of filming this video, she's now sitting at 63,000 followers on TikTok. And now the question is, who are these 63,000 people that followed her? On what grounds did they follow her? What stories do themselves have that made them to actually follow Casey Anthony? So there are many questions. Other people are feeling that this is immoral. TikTok should take her down. But it is her constitutional right, and also those that follow her and they are going to fan after her, that is their constitutional rights too. Irrespective of what we say, I'm judging. So tell me, what are your thoughts about Casey Anthony also making a return on social media? Are you following her? Why are you following her? I would like to know. If you're not following her, I think I know the reasons why, but I would still like to hear from you in the comment section. What are your feelings? What are you feeling? What steps that needs to be taken to ensure that her TikTok page and Substack is also taken down? I will participate, trust me. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Please don't leave the video without liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. I'll see you next time with a new video. Goodbye.